There's no better feeling than to fly past stations whilst sat on an express train, and it's a treat enjoyed by many in Sydney. But how useful are they? How can they be improved? And are there any that should be withdrawn? Before we start, I'll explain some terminology. I use the terms fast and express interchangeably, i.e., not stopping at a large number of stations. Semi-fast is a limited stop service, and slow or local service is one that stops at every station. The T1 North Shore and Western Line has a very varied service pattern, with a number of different express services throughout the day. The half-hourly Richmond branch never sees any expresses. West of Blacktown, the main express service is provided by the intercity Blue Mountains line, which runs hourly all week and half-hourly in peaks. Between Penrith and Blacktown, the Blue Mountains line expresses save 7 minutes over slow trains. A few peak-only T1 trains skip Rooty Hill and Doonside stations. Blue Mountains line expresses benefit from quad track between St Mary's and Blacktown, allowing overtaking of trains. Between Blacktown and Parramatta, generally only trains from the Richmond branch stop all stations, with most T1 trains running fast through Toongabbie, Pendle Hill and Wentworthville, and sometimes Westmead, saving 6 to 7 minutes. Blue Mountains line trains normally run fast through this whole section, saving 8 minutes. Between Parramatta and the city, T1 trains on weekdays provide express services, saving 19 minutes over the T2 stopping trains. On weekends, additional stops are made by T1 trains west of Strathfield, leading to reduced time savings. Quad and Sex track between Parramatta and Central allows these expresses to overtake slower trains. The North Shore Line only has express trains on weekdays, and these are limited in their time savings due to the line being only double track. On-peak expresses are fairly random, but generally skip stations between Gordon and Chatswood at a minimum, with some other stations north of Gordon occasionally being skipped. Intercity Central Coast trains run every 15 minutes on-peak, stopping only at Berowra, Hornsby, Gordon and Chatswood before running local to the city. The issue with these peak hour expresses is that they save no time between Gordon and Chatswood, and only up to 3 minutes between Gordon and Hornsby. Weekday interpeak expresses run every half hour between North Sydney and Lynfield, stopping only at St Leonard's and Chatswood, saving only 3 minutes. Later this year, a large timetable change will occur. When this happens, the Central Coast and Newcastle line trains running to Blacktown via the North Shore will most likely be withdrawn, allowing space for more local trains. The time savings brought on by the Metro when it opens will outweigh any savings on any current express. Thus, they should probably all be replaced with local trains to increase service to North Shore stations, whilst simplifying operations. The T2 Inner West and Leppington line has a rather complicated timetable, operating at least 3 stopping patterns throughout the day. The Leppington trains run local between Granville and Leppington every 15 minutes at least, with the fastest way into the city for some passengers in the southwest being the timed connection to the T8 at Glenfield. Off-peak, Leppington trains stop at Clyde, Auburn, Lidcombe, Flemington, Strathfield, Burwood, Ashfield, Newtown and Redfern before entering the city, with Inner West locals stopping all between either Parramatta or Homebush and the city, combining to a 15-minute headway. The peak pattern is more complicated, with the every 7.5-minute Leppington and 15-minute Parramatta trains both providing express and local services. The time savings on this section are less relevant, as anybody seeking faster travel has the option to change at Lidcombe or Strathfield for other express trains. For this reason, the T2 stopping pattern should probably be altered to allow express service between Granville and Glenfield, with timed connections at Lidcombe to faster trains. Later this year, in the 2024 timetable change, the T2 will become even more complicated with the reintroduction of Inner West via Sefton trains, which will follow a semi-fast pattern like current Leppington trains. I won't spend much time on the T3 Bankstown line as its days are very much numbered. The current express service is provided between Birrong and Redfern by Liverpool trains, stopping only at Bankstown, Lakemba, Campsie, Marrickville and Sydenham, and saves roughly 7 minutes. Headway on this service is half-hourly outside of peak, increasing to every 15 minutes during the peak. Travel times between Bankstown and Central will be cut by 7 minutes compared to local trains once the metro opens in 2025, being as fast as current express trains whilst stopping at all stations at a vastly increased headway of 10 minutes off-peak and 4 minutes on-peak. The T4 Eastern Suburbs and Illawarra line benefits from quad track between Walleye Creek and Hurstville, with the 7-minute combined headway from Waterfall and Cronulla generally running fast through this section. Some stations between Hurstville and Sutherland are skipped by some trains week-long. On weekends and off-peak, the express service between Walleye Creek and Hurstville degrades, with all trains stopping at Rockdale and Cogra. Additional South Coast intercity trains, hourly except in the peak where this increases to every 20 minutes in one direction, provide express services stopping only at Sutherland, Hurstville and Walleye Creek. The maximum time saving on a full express between Hurstville and Walleye Creek is 9 minutes. I believe the T4 would benefit from service simplification, with Cronulla trains every 10 minutes running express between Sutherland and the city, stopping only at Hurstville and Walleye Creek. The Waterfall trains every 20 minutes can fill in between Sutherland and Hurstville before also running express, and an all-day expansion of the current peak-only Hurstville local service could be introduced with a frequency of at least every 15 minutes, ideally every 10. The express pattern between Sutherland and Walleye Creek would save 14 minutes compared to all stop services. A large reshuffle of the Illawarra Railway will occur at the 2024 timetable change, with the current local tracks to be used by expresses and vice versa, coinciding with the T3 line being cut. This will allow increased separation between fast and slow trains, with South Coast expresses bypassing Walleye Creek and running on what used to be the T3 tracks to Erskineville before diving under the main suburban to reach Central Terminal. T4 trains will all stop at Walleye Creek as they do now, as well as all stations between there and Redfern. The T5 Cumberland line has the worst frequency of any in Sydney, and obviously has no express services. They should not be considered before an increase in headway to 15 minutes. Obviously, the Olympic Sprint Shuttle has no express services outside of special event service, as it normally only serves 2 stations. The T8 Airport and South Line, in my opinion, has the best express service in Sydney. The line is quadruplicated between Torella and Revesby, allowing services to be split into Macarthur to City trains running fast between Revesby and Walleye Creek, and the slow Revesby to City trains. Additional peak hour expresses run too. Both services have good all-week headways of 15 minutes, combining to 7.5 in the airport tunnel. Due to the quad track, expresses are about 11 minutes faster than stoppers, a significant time saving for those travelling from the southwest. There is still scope for improvement though. A journey from Campbelltown to Central on the fastest Sydney Trains Electric Express via Sydenham currently takes 55 minutes, compared with just 38 minutes on the few daily diesel Southern Highlands services that continue all the way to Central. Perhaps a half-hourly express could run all day from Campbelltown to Central, stopping only at Glenfield, Revesby, Sydenham and Central Terminal. When the new regional fleet arrives, there's a possibility that all Southern Highlands Line trains will run to Central, which could run every second service on this express pattern. The current plan for the T8 is to introduce a new express running all stops to Glenfield, then Holsworthy, Walleye Creek, and then all stops to the city via the airport in peak every 15 minutes, when the 2024 timetable rolls out. All Sydenham services will be withdrawn, and the local service will increase to every 10 minutes. The T9 currently only has peak express services. Every 15 minutes, a slow train runs from Epping to the North Shore, and every other 15 minutes, a train runs slow from Hornsby to Epping, then semi-fast to Strathfield, then fast to Central Terminal. These express trains make use of various sections of quad tracking between Strathfield and Rhodes, and West Ryde and Epping. The express trains save 8 minutes between Epping and Central. Outside of peak hour, express service is provided by the half-hourly intercity Central Coast and Newcastle trains, which are 17 minutes faster than an all-stop service between Hornsby and Central. The issue with upgrading express service on the T9 is the track limitation. At the very least, a third track should be built across the Parramatta River, At best, however, the whole line between Strathfield and Hornsby would be quadruplicated. If possible, an all-week express service could take the form of a local from Hornsby to Epping every 15 minutes, then running fast all the way to Strathfield and Central, omitting the current stop at Burwood. An additional service could serve Epping to the North Shore every other 15 minutes, with the half-hourly CCN providing full express coverage. I don't know what will happen to the T9 service pattern after the 2024 timetable change. Express trains are already very useful for many in Sydney, but with some adjustments, their benefits could be far more widespread. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'd also like to thank Phil from Sydney Trains Vlogs, who has very generously allowed me to use some of his footage. I'll link to his channel in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.